My name is Ronnie, and at 30 years old, I spent an entire year paying my sister's rent. Then one afternoon, I found out she had quietly bought a house, and somehow forgot to mention it to me. If you've ever been blindsided by the people who were supposed to have your back, the ones you'd have done anything for, let me know where you're watching from. I was on my way to the grocery store, half distracted by a podcast when I saw it. A shiny red Isolde sign stuck into the front lawn of a cute little bungalow on the corner of Maple and 6th. One of those homes that looks like it belongs in a coffee commercial. Fresh paint, hanging flower baskets, a brand new mailbox that probably still smelled like the hardware store. I might have driven right past it if it weren't for the car in the driveway, my sister's car. The faded blue hatchback with a dent on the passenger door from when she backed into a pole last winter. I slowed down, frowning, blinking like my eyes were playing tricks on me. Maybe she was visiting someone? House-sitting? Babysitting? None of it made sense. Megan barely had enough money to buy groceries some months. Or at least, that's what she always told me. That was why I had been paying her rent for 12 straight months. Why I'd skipped dinners out, put off upgrading my busted laptop, and worked late more nights than I could count. Because my sister was struggling. Because she needed me. I pulled over without even thinking. My heart was hammering as I watched her walk out the front door, laughing, sunshine hitting her face like she was in some commercial for new beginnings. She was holding a set of keys. The kind of keys that gleam when they're new. She wasn't house-sitting. She wasn't visiting. She lived there. Next to her stood a woman in a blazer holding a folder. The real estate agent. They shook hands, smiling like two people sealing a deal. I stood there frozen. My brain trying to rearrange what I was seeing into something that made sense. It didn't. Not even close. Megan noticed me before I could even call her name. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost impressive. "Ronnie, hey," she said, voice an octave too high, too bright, like she'd just been caught sneaking out past curfew. I walked toward her, eyes locked on the keys dangling from her fingers. "You bought a house." She hesitated, long enough for the guilt to flicker across her face. "I was going to tell you," she blurted, stuffing the keys into her pocket like she could hide them there. "Things just moved really fast. Move fast," I repeated. The words sounded foreign in my own mouth. For a year, I'd been working extra shifts, cutting corners and eating leftovers so she wouldn't lose her apartment, and she'd been out here closing on real estate. "You told me you didn't have money for rent," I said, my voice tightening. Megan gave a nervous laugh, brushing her hair off her shoulder like it was no big deal. I mean, I didn't, not for rent. But I was trying to set myself up, you know? Making smart moves. My stomach twisted. "You mean letting me cover your rent while you save for a house?" Her smile faltered. "Look, I get why you're upset, but it's not like you were giving me money directly. You paid my landlord. That was your choice." I stared at her. "You made it sound like you couldn't survive without help." "I couldn't," she said quickly, defensive now. "I just couldn't do everything at once. You're in a more stable place, Ronnie. It made sense for you to help out while I got my feet under me." "More stable?" I laughed under my breath, bitter. "I was skipping meals to make sure you didn't lose your apartment." She shrugged, crossing her arms. "It's not like you were suffering. You were fine." Fine. That word hit like a slap. She had no idea. Or maybe she did, and she didn't care. "So, let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You let me believe you were broke, let me pay your rent every month, while you funneled all your money into buying this house, and now you think that's okay?" Her tone shifted, exasperated now. "Ronnie, you're overreacting. I was going to tell you at the right time, probably after I decorated and had the housewarming party. You always take things so personally." I stared at her, speechless. "You knew this was wrong." She didn't answer. Just looked away, lips pressed tight. I turned and walked back to my car. My pulse was pounding in my ears. "Ronnie, come on. Don't be like that," she called. "If you're mad, I'll make it up to you. You can stay here whenever you want. I even have a guest room." That broke something in me. I got into my car, slammed the door, and didn't look back. As I drove off, my hands were shaking. It wasn't just anger, it was humiliation, raw and heavy. I'd been played by my own sister. I had believed every excuse, every tearful story about bills and bad luck. I'd carried her when she wasn't even limping. I didn't go home right away. I just drove, through side streets, across town, past the gas station where I'd worked double shifts last summer. Every time I thought about her smile, that fake, practiced, effortless smile, I gripped the wheel tighter. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. It wasn't new. It was a pattern. It had always been a pattern. Megan took and I gave. Megan stumbled and I caught her. Megan lied and I forgave her. Growing up, she could do no wrong. I was the reliable one, the helper, the fixer. She was the golden child who got away with everything. When she stole half my savings as a kid, the money I'd spent months earning babysitting, Mom just sighed. "Don't make a fuss, Ronnie. She's younger. She didn't mean it." When she got caught cheating in high school, Mom begged me to help her with the retake. "You don't want her to fail, do you?" And I'd done it. Every single time. Because that's what I was supposed to do. Because Mom said family helps family. Because Megan promised she'd do better next time. But there was always a next time. And every time, I lost a little more of myself cleaning up her messes. Now, sitting in my car outside my crumbling apartment, I realized I'd done it again. I'd spent a year barely surviving so she could thrive. I was exhausted, drained, and angry in a way that didn't burn. It hollowed. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the glow of my dashboard. I could already hear Mom's voice, warm but dismissive. Megan didn't mean any harm. She was just trying to get ahead. She's your sister, Ronnie. And I finally understood something I should have learned years ago. Megan wasn't going to change. Not because she couldn't, but because she never had to. This time, she'd made her smart move. But I was done being her safety net. Family helps each other, but where was my help when I was working overtime? When I was skipping meals? To make my paycheck stretch further, when I was lying awake at night wondering how I was going to keep covering someone else's bills? Where was my help? Then I had a feeling I already knew the answer. No one had ever worried about me the way they worried about Megan. And maybe it was time I stopped worrying about her too. I woke up the next morning with a headache and a pit in my stomach. Sleep hadn't done anything to dull the anger. If anything, it was worse. Because now, after a night of replaying every moment in my head, I wasn't just mad at Megan. I was mad at myself. I had let this happen. I had let Megan manipulate me, take advantage of me, walk all over me just like she always had. And I knew exactly why. Because every single time Megan did something selfish, our family made me feel like the bad guy for standing up for myself. And this time would be no different. I knew I should just walk away, let it go, be done with her, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to say my piece. I needed her to look me in the eyes and hear exactly what she'd done to me. I grabbed my phone and called her. She answered on the third ring, her voice way too casual. "Hey sis, you good?" Like she hadn't completely betrayed me. "Less than 24 hours ago, I didn't bother with small talk. Are you home?" She hesitated. Yeah, why good?" "I'm coming over." Pause, then wearily Ronnie. "Can't we just talk later?" I was already grabbing my keys. "No, I'll bet her in 10. She sighed. "Fine." I hung up. I wasn't giving her time to come up with another excuse. Another way to twist the situation until it somehow became my fault. 10 minutes later, we pulled up to her house. Not the tiny apartment I had been paying for. Her house. I parked and took a deep breath, trying to push down the fury bubbling in my chest. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me, guilt me, or make me feel crazy. This time, she opened the door before I even knocked. "Look, I get that you're mad," but I pushed past her into the house. "Mad Megan. I'm beyond mad." She closed the door and crossed her arms. "You're overreacting," I laughed. Actually laughed. "You let me pay your rent for a year while you saved up for a house, and now you're standing in that house telling me I'm overreacting." Megan sighed dramatically, like she was bored of this conversation already. "I didn't make you pay, Ronnie, you offered." I clenched my jaw because you lied. You made it sound like you were struggling. You said you had no money. You let me think. You were one step away from losing your apartment, and the whole time you were just using me so you could save up for a house. Her expression flickered just for a second, but then she shrugged. "So what? It worked, didn't it?" I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "Are you serious?" Megan let out an exasperated sigh. "Ronnie, you act like I stole from you." "I didn't. You covered rent because you could. I was saving for my future." I stared at her at my expense. She threw up her hands. "My God, you act like you're poor." "You're fine. You have a job. You're not living on the streets. I don't get why you're making this such a big deal. I had to take a deep breath to keep from screaming. I had worked myself to exhaustion so she could put money away, and she was acting like it was nothing. Like I didn't matter. Something inside me snapped. You are the most selfish person I have ever met, I said, my voice cold. And even Megan rolled her eyes. Right, because I wanted to build a life for myself. That makes me selfish. No, because you let me sacrifice everything for you, while you lied to my face. Because you only care about yourself. Because you don't feel even a little guilty that I was struggling. While you were stashing money away. He shook her head, scoffing. You're so dramatic. I turned to leave. That's when she said it. You know, you'd be happier if you weren't so bitter all the time. If Rose bitter. That's what she thought. Not that I had been used. Not that she'd done something wrong. Just that I was bitter. Like I was just mad because she had something I didn't. I turned back, something dark curling in my chest. I feel sorry for you, Megan. She blinked. What? You're never going to have real happiness because you only know how to take. You don't build anything. You don't earn anything. You just take and take and take from the people who actually care about you. And one day, there won't be anyone left to take from. For the first time, she actually looked uncomfortable. Whatever, Ronnie. I walked out. I was done. Done making excuses for her. Done letting her drain me dry. Done being the only one who cared. But I should have known it wasn't over. Not with my family. Because the second I cut Megan off, they came after me next. The next day, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted Mom. Ronnie called me. We need to talk. I ignored it. 2 hours later, my dad called. Then Megan again by the end of the day. I had 8 missed calls. I finally caved and answered. When Mom called again. Ronnie. She sighed. Why are you being so cruel to your sister? I nearly dropped the phone. Cruel. She told me what happened. Mom said like I had kicked a puppy instead of confronting a liar. She's devastated. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Oh, she's devastated. That's interesting because I was pretty devastated when I found out. I spent a year covering her rent while she saved for a house, Ronnie. Mom said, that disappointed tone slipping into her voice. Megan needed help. You've always been the responsible one. It just made sense for you to help her until she was on her feet. I squeezed my eyes shut. Mom, she wasn't struggling. She was lying. She was doing what she had to do. Mom said firmly. And now she has a house. Isn't that a good thing? It gritted my teeth. Not when she got it by manipulating me. There was a long pause then. You know, you're always so stubborn. Mom sighed. You've never been able to just let things go. I clenched my jaw. You mean I don't let people walk all over me? She's your sister, Ronnie. Family helps each other. I let out a slow breath. And what about me? Mom hesitated. What? When have you ever expected Megan to help me? My voice was quiet now. When has she ever done anything for me? Silence then. Ronnie, don't be difficult. I closed my eyes. It was never going to change. Megan wasn't the only problem. My whole family was the problem. And I was finally done playing my role in it. I didn't respond to my mom. I just ended the call and sat there staring at the blank screen. It was like something inside me had finally snapped. Not in an angry, explosive way. No yelling, no throwing things, just silence. A calm, heavy, dead weight in my chest. I wasn't mad anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just done for the first time in my life. I saw things clearly. I had spent years believing I was part of this family, that I mattered, that they saw me as something more than just the one who cleaned up after Megan's mistakes. But they didn't to them. I was useful. That was all. And now that I had stopped being useful, they were turning on me. I put my phone on silent, shoved it into a drawer, and left my apartment. I didn't even know where I was going at first. I just needed to move. I needed to be anywhere but here, drowning in their voices in my head, trying to pull me back in. An hour later, I found myself at a cafe on the other side of town, sipping a cup of coffee I wasn't even sure I wanted. I stared out the window watching people pass by. Their lives normal, simple, untouched by the kind of exhaustion I felt. And then my phone vibrated. I shouldn't have checked it. I knew that, but I did. A message from my dad. Dad, Ronnie, I really think you need to apologize to your sister. She's really upset and you're being unfair. Unfair? I actually laughed out loud. A sharp, bitter sound that made the older woman at the next table glance at me unfair. Megan had lied to me, used me, drained me dry, and I was the unfair own. I shoved my phone back into my bag, jaw clenched. They weren't going to stop. They weren't going to let me leave my role behind. I had to make them. The next morning, I woke up to another round of missed calls and texts. I didn't answer. Then someone knocked on my door. I knew before I even looked who it would be. I opened it to find Megan standing there looking exhausted like she hadn't slept. Her expression flickered when she saw me, like she was expecting someone softer, someone ready to make peace. I just stared. She sighed. Ronnie, can I come in? I crossed my arms. Why? She let out a short laugh, shaking her head. Wow. Okay. He pushed past me anyway. Typical. I closed the door, turning to face her. What do you want? She looked around my apartment, frowning like she'd never really seen it before, probably because she hadn't. Megan never bothered to visit me, unless she needed something. She let out a breath. I get that you're mad. I do, but I don't think you understand my side of things. I almost laughed your side. She nodded, arms crossed. I had to do what was best for me. That's not a crime. You've always been stable, Ronnie. You've always had a good job. A good head on your shoulders. I knew you'd be fine. I just stared at her. That was her excuse that I was too responsible. So, because I was fine, that meant it was okay to oust me, I asked. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, I didn't use you. I raised an eyebrow. She hesitated. Okay, maybe I let you help me, but that's what family does. We help each other. No, Megan, I said, voice steady. I helped you. You never helped me. She blinked. I stepped closer. Tell me one time. One time in our whole lives when you sacrificed something for me. Silence. She shifted uncomfortably. Ronnie, come on. No. Say it. She looked away. I don't know. I never kept track of stuff like that because you never had to, I said. Her jaw tightened. You're acting like I committed a crime. I just did what was best for me. And I'm doing what's best for me, I said, my voice cool. She frowned. What does that mean? It means I'm done. Her eyes narrowed. Done with what? With you? With this family's expectations? With being your safety net? I'm done. Megan catchily laughed. No, you're not. I didn't smile. I am. For the first time, real panic flashed in her eyes. Ronnie, don't be ridiculous. He is mad. You'll get over it. I shook my head. Not this time. She let out a frustrated breath. Okay, fine. What do you want? You want me to pay you back? I stared at her. You don't have the money? She hesitated. You can't afford the mortgage, can you? I asked, tilting my head. She flinched. That was it. That was why she was here. It wasn't just guilt. It wasn't just my parents pushing her to fix things. She was struggling. And she had come here, hoping I'd bail her out. You spent everything, didn't you? I said. He swallowed. I exhaled slowly. I hope it was worth it, Megan, because you're going to have to figure it out on your own, she scoffed. Oh, so now you don't care if I lose my house? I met her gaze. I care that you finally deal with the consequences of your own choices. She shook her head. You're so cold. No, I said simply. I'm just finally looking out for myself. Her lips pressed into Athen line. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue more. But then she saw something in my face. Something she couldn't manipulate. And for the first time, she knew she had lost. She exhaled sharply. Fine, whatever. She turned and walked to the door. Gripping the handle, she hesitated. You know, she said, not turning around. You're not as strong as you think. You'll be back. I smiled. No, Megan. I said I won't. She walked out. I shut the door and locked it. Then I stood there in the quiet, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Because for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself and I wasn't going back.